Does this woman look like a feminist to you? In the era when men ruled the world, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz took a stand against unfair expectations for women by responding to her critics by saying that any woman should have the same rights as men. Sor Juana, daughter of Isabel Ramirez and Pedro Manuel de Esquivaje, was born in November 12, 1651, in Tepexipcia, Mexico. In that time, women were taught to have knowledge, but were taught to sew, clean, and cook. At the age of 3, Sor Juana learned how to read by her sister Josefa's teacher, and from that moment on, books began to be a part of her life. In 1667, she began her life as a nun. 2 years later, she moved to the convent of San Jerónimo Saint Jerome in Mexico City, where she remained cloistered for the rest of her life. Although she always wanted to get married, she decided that becoming a nun was the best option because no man could ever rule over her. Sor Juana didn't just love books, she loved poetry, writing, and plays. Since she had shown her talents, people would call her over to delight them with her poetry, so her life was divided in religion obligations, the obligations of her community, and her studies. When she decided to learn how to write, she wasn't able to because that was only permitted to the priests and monks, so she had to study on her own and confront many disadvantages. In her life, she delighted in philosophy, comedy, poetry, astronomy, music, and art. Here are some of her famous poetry and work. Foolish Men, where she accuses men of behaving illogically by criticizing women. Here is a quote from this poem. "You foolish men, who lay the guilt on women, not seeing you're the cause of the very thing you blame." The Carta Antológica and First Dream, Sor Juana's most important and most difficult poem. It employs the convoluted poetic forms of the Baroque to recount the tortuous quest of the soul for knowledge. The entire poem attempts the nun's lifelong pursuit of learning. The prodigiously accomplished Sor Juana achieved considerable renown in Mexico and in Spain. When renown gained disapproval from the church officials, Sor Juana broke with her Jesuit confessor, Antonio Núñez de la Miranda, in the early 1680s because he had publicly maligned her. The nun's privileged situation began to collapse after the departure for Spain of her protectors, the Marquis and the Marquise de la Laguna. In November 1690, Manuel Fernández de Santa Cruz, Bishop of Puebla, published without Sor Juana's permission her critique of a 40-year-old sermon by the Portuguese Jesuit preacher Antonio Vieira. In March 1691, Fernández de Santa Cruz entitled the critique Carta Antológica, or Letter of Worthy of Athena, using the female pseudonym of Sister Violeta. He also admonished Sor Juana to concentrate on religious rather than secular studies, which this has brought her to her Dispuesta a Sor Violeta. This is very important because Sor Juana responded to the Bishop of Puebla with her magnificent self-defense and defense to all women's rights to knowledge, the Respuesta a Sor Violeta de la Cruz, or Reply to Sister Violeta of the Cross, which defends women's rights to educational access, is retitled as the first published feminist of the New World. This does not only prove to society that women are capable to be successful and to have an education, but it inspired women to stand up for their rights and to do what they desire most. Even today, she inspires many women by taking a stand against their society for the right to have an education. Sor Juana died in Mexico City on April 17, 1696. Today, Sor Juana stands as a national icon of Mexican identity, and her image appears on Mexican currency, says the Biography.com editors, where she came to the new prominence in the late 20th century with the rise of feminism and women's writing, officially becoming retitled as the first published feminist of the New World. In the era where man ruled the world, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz took a stand against unfair expectations for women by responding to her critics by saying that any woman should have the same rights as men.